And let's dive deep into the other part here. You mentioned it. There may be a swap between WWE and the UFC, Vince McMahon and Dana White doing business. What are the reports that you saw? Fox Sports, I believe, was the first one to break this year.
And here's the two names that I got going is one will actually appear possibly at SummerSlam, and that is the young lady fresh off Dancing with the Stars,
Paige Van
Zandt.
Okay.
Then, at WrestleMania, you can pencil in Ronda Rousey being in the ring.
Okay. So I have
not
two
just
things.
a appearance, but as in the ring.
Okay, I have two things here. Paige Van Zandt being at SummerSlam would be peak WWE because she's in the media ether, in the entertainment ether right now. I have no idea what they would do with Paige Van Zandt. I don't know how creatively they would book that. Paige Van Zandt was fantastic on Dancing with the Stars. She's an incredibly tough fighter, as we saw, despite the fact she was completely outclassed by Rose Namajunas. She hung in there for 5 rounds and took everything that Rose was given.
Yeah, and then some.
Yeah, and obviously she's got the look, and she's got a ways to go when it comes to that. But it's just peak WWE to kind of want to do that. And the Rousey thing is not surprising, given the fact, of course, she was already involved with WWE at WrestleMania 31 with The Rock and an angle with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon and all that. We don't know when Rousey's going to fight again. If she's going to fight again, she is still I've seen training videos, very sad training videos, but I've seen training videos.
Well, maybe that's what she's doing, getting ready for wrestling.
I mean, that's the only explanation for Edmund Tarverdyan's punching drills. She's throwing some she's working stiff with whoever's going to be women's champion at that time.
Poor Charlotte.
But this is a crazy little thing, because the amount of times we've compared Vince McMahon and Dana White and how wrestling has its ways to navigate into the UFC, and it all kind of stems from one of the greatest of all time, who passed away over the weekend as well, Muhammad Ali, because there was a great
Antonio
article.
Inoki.
Yeah, the Antonio Inoki Muhammad Ali fight. There was a great article by David Shoemaker on TheRinger.com that I recommend everybody check out, and just basically talking about how Ali learned from Freddie Blassie at a radio interview when he was still Cassius Clay, that wow, this guy's talking so much crap as a heel, and I'm going to start to do that.
Yeah,
and
he said he took over also Gorgeous George.
Yeah.
I'm so pretty.
Yeah, and Ali became this basically poet. And, I mean, I could go hours on the greatness of Muhammad Ali, but it's kind of the original boxing stuff that Ali took was wrestling played back and forth with that so much, and then the UFC guys see the wrestlers and the greatest of all time do it, and then you get those kinds of talks back and forth, and now you get this whole entity where MMA and WWE are kind of combining, like with Lesnar being allowed to go over there. I mean, Ken Shamrock, of course, one of the greatest examples of being an MMA fighter, jumping to WWE, becoming Intercontinental Champion.
I mean, you got to think, too, you had Dan Severn, who was with NWA for a long time. He was the NWA Heavyweight Champion. At the same time, he was the UFC champion.
So there's precedence for this happening. Like, these two things have run in the same circles, but it's the first time that it's so visually, like, Lesnar is under contract with WWE. They're going to promote the hell out of this fight. And the UFC is going to promote the hell out of SummerSlam. Yeah. And it's going to be a win-win for everybody unless, and this is why it was so surprising when they named Mark Hunt his opponent. Hunt can knock him out in 10 seconds.
But see, I don't think that takes away from the WWE. It doesn't. I mean, he got knocked out by Overeem.
Yep.
He got beat by Mir. He got all that, and he still showed up at WWE, and everybody was like, he's the beast.
I actually watched back Lesnar's return in 2012 when he, the night after WrestleMania, and that crowd went nuts.
Yeah. And people knew he was going to be there.
Yeah.
And it was still, I mean, just that it's the aura, it's two different things. And I think, as much, grief as like wrestling fans get, as there are some that, are a little bit, I guess, extremely pro wrestling-ish, I guess.
They're marks.
Let's but you do have your smart marks that understand there is two separate, this is MMA, this is pro wrestling,
Yes.
and for those, this is going to be a fun thing for.
And this is, the amount of people who came up, again, I always judge a major power move by the UFC by the amount of people who know that I know UFC and MMA and all this stuff and that don't really care about it come up to me and go, is Brock Lesnar, the wrestler, fighting again? For the UFC? Like, this is hitting all of these little markets. Like, holy crap, Brock Lesnar is a UFC fighter again. And it's a major freaking deal. Which is, if you had told me Lesnar was going to be on UFC 200 a month ago, I would have just laughed you out of the building.
Yeah.
There were always rumors and all this kind of stuff. Brett Okamoto of ESPN, who does a great job, literally asked Dana White on Friday night, is Brock Lesnar in the plans for 200? And Dana White said, hell no. And then Saturday night, Helwani breaks it, gets thrown out in a whole other story we'll talk about in a little bit. And they break the news that Lesnar is going to be back in the UFC. I'm excited, and I'm going to be talking about it. I'm going to do full breakdowns of this fight because the next big thing is still a big thing.